welcome back to another episode of Hey Mumma. Today's guest, I'm speaking with Amanda Loftus. Is that how I say your last name right?
It is. Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Now, Amanda is a mum of one. She's a management consultant, a writer, a designer, a leadership coach, and a widow. Now, I'm sure we're going to get to all those topics and those subjects along the chat today. But I wanted to start with management consulting. Can you tell us a little bit about being a management consultant, what that actually is?
Sure. So it is a lot of things. It's working with corporates, organizations around. So I work with leadership from top to bottom down of organizations on things like culture, how they're organized, designed to work, how to be more efficient, implementing new systems and technology, and how to bring people along on the journey. So that's a very small snapshot of what I do. Lots of change, and design of people and systems. So it's human-centered design. And I've also been working in the artificial intelligence space as well recently. So that's very fascinating, and it's full-on role.
Yeah,
I've been doing that, on and off for quite a number of years, actually. I came through sort of the HR route. So people have always been my thing.
Yeah, okay. So you came through the HR role kind of thing, and then it turned into a management consulting. I find that absolutely fascinating on how much you actually do and implement in terms of leadership and with human beings. So what landed you in that type of role? Like you talked about the HR, but what led you down that path and all those years ago?
Really interesting. I think, I was reflecting on that a week ago, and every single position or job I've ever had has actually equaled in what I do now. So I actually left school at a really young age, just due to something that happened. And I ended up working from 16, so really young, and having to work really hard. So while all my friends partied overseas and doing their OE, I was working away. So I got actually into recruitment when I was younger, and literally interviewed thousands and thousands of people over 15 years. And I was trained in psychometric tools as well. So really understanding how people behave in different situations, that sort of thing, which led me into HR and organizational design. So that is looking at how organizations function versus their business strategy and implementing, I guess, systems, processes, and the people change to enable that to happen. So it's been a long journey, but it's amazing all the work that I get to do now with teams. So, and seeing that impact across a huge number of people as well. So,
what kind of impact would you say that's had? Did you hear that?
No, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. There was a doorbell and nobody else is joining in this conversation, so I don't know what happened. That's okay. We can edit that out. So I said, what sort of impact do you think that you've had on these people?
Around people generally being a lot happier in the work that they do, and actually being confident in the work that they do, and helping them increase their capability as well in different areas and move into roles and positions that they never thought were possible, and helping them dream big. So, collaborating with them, strategizing with them to make their dreams come true at work. So a lot of organizations don't know how to enable their big ideas. And so I've been working with lots of different teams on the technical side to build crazy new ways of working and new systems, and then training people up in organizations to make that happen. So I think it has a big impact on their confidence, their self-confidence as well, their purpose, having self-worth as well, being present at work, their engagement. A lot of the organizations that I work with, after we've done big projects with them, they come out with a higher rate of engagement. People are not leaving as often. So that's a pretty cool impact to have on an organization, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I just love it because people do thrive off proper systems, proper structure, and like even what we do in health is that's what we do. We help people create a system, create structure in their own homes. And then we see that impact that it has on their lives. So for you going in and working on the culture, and I mean, one of my favorite books is Dare to Lead, which is Brene Brown. So like, it sounds like similar work. Would you?
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like
it is.
yeah, and putting people into positions of their strength. That's what I'm picking up from that. And then that way, you know, they're not seeing so much of their, oh, I'm not good at that, or I'm not good at that. But you're putting them into strength roles where they're building their confidence, and then therefore they want to stay, don't they?
Absolutely. And they're getting opportunities to grow. And that's the thing. People like to grow. It doesn't matter whether it's with one organization or five. Often that will be the reason why they leave a company. It's either the culture, the leadership not being great, or they don't get any opportunities. So definitely it's about enabling people now.
Yeah.
And the world's changed, you know, with COVID, that's had a huge impact on people.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I can't help but see the similarities in schooling and stuff as well, because you spend a lot of time there. You spend a lot of hours in your workplace. So you want to make it like a great place to go to, that you look forward to go to, and you have that culture, you have those systems, you put in the right roles where you look forward to going to work. And if you're not looking forward to going to school because the system is, you know, it's so old school, it's sit in your seat and learn for 6 hours, if you're not creating that culture around you where you're not getting along with people, you know, it can be a very miserable place, right?
Absolutely. And people are working from home, right? So, you know, generally speaking, they are just seeing the same people all the time. So, you know, you've got to make it interesting. So I've worked a lot with virtual teams too, and creating culture virtually
Yeah,
is a
yep,
whole
that's what
different
you've got to
challenge.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
And you
happened
do.
with our online businesses. We had to create culture online.
And it's hard, right? If you haven't met
Mm.
people in person, there's more of a challenge around that. But, you know, good leaders can do that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely fascinating. Can I ask why you chose to leave at 15, 16? I know it was common back then, because I mean, I left at like 17 or something like that, thinking, oh, the school's not for me. Was that similar to you, or did you have an experience that made you leave school?
I did, yeah. So we had a very traumatic event happen, actually, um, which I do talk about. It's kind of funny to talk about it now because it seems like a dream and it happened to somebody else. It was when I was 15. We actually had a home invasion, like a very terrible, violent home invasion.
Oh,
My mum and I actually. So I was actually we were kidnapped and held, yeah, not hostage as such, but yeah, it was terrifying. And for that year following, I pretty much spent most of that year in counselling
yeah.
3 times a week for 2 hours, and testifying in high court and things like that. Back in those
Wow.
days too, they had name suppression. So I wasn't allowed to talk to my friends about it. My school didn't know about it. They just thought that I was unreliable, and I was a straight A student until that happened,
So
and
you
planning to
couldn't
go to
even talk about it to
university.
the school. You couldn't let them know this is why, you know, I'm acting out of character, or.
I wasn't there pretty much. So that was in I'm just trying to think of the Australian equivalent. So in New Zealand, back in those days, it was called the school certificate. So that's your first sort of qualification, say towards ATAR for university. So it's a really important year. And
Mm.
I didn't, I think I got bullied at school too for being away for such a long time. And I lost an incredible amount of weight actually from the stress. The
Okay.
people were saying, you know, are you anorexic? And what is that why you've been away? And so it was a really tough time. So I left school. I actually still sat the qualification, even though I hadn't been there. I missed out by 1%. Can you believe it? And I should have sent it in for a recount, but I thought, you know, I'd sort of grown so much during that year as a person. I felt like I didn't fit into that environment anymore.
Yeah.
Um, And there wasn't really the right support back then. We're talking, I'm 46 now, so that's a very long time ago. Things were very different then. So I moved away, actually. I went and lived with my aunt and uncle in a completely different city to have a fresh start and started working. So, yeah.
Wow. And how was that for you when you did get the fresh start? And did your mother come along with you, or?
Yeah, she didn't actually. I was very independent, I guess. I've always been quite independent, free spirit. And my mum is the same, actually. So she moved to a different place and I moved to a different place. And because I was with my aunt and uncle, it was her younger sister. She wasn't really, too bothered by that. She'd come and see me all the time. And we had some adventures together. We went traveling and did a few trips and things like that. Yeah.
Wow.
But no, it was amazing to have a fresh start and rebuild your life without, so many people, because by that stage everybody knew about it. It had been in the papers and it was, a lot in a small town. I come from a very small coastal town in New Zealand. So it was wonderful to have that freedom and that space to walk down the street and have nobody recognise you or know who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be whoever you want.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so you got into recruitment because you left school and you went to start. That got you on your journey to management consultant. I want to talk about your next title, which is you're a mother. So you're a mum of one. Can you talk to me about and you're a widow as well. So what is it like being a single working mum that's obviously so driven and has lots of goals, but you're doing it, by yourself and not not a decision that you made to do it on your own. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've been widowed for 3 years this Sunday, actually, which is crazy. It's gone really quickly, but it feels like a lifetime as well ago. So my daughter's 16 now, so she was 13 when her dad passed away. And being a mum and working full time, and I'm also renovating a house. I've done two now, which is crazy. Maybe I'm a bit crazy. That's the word. Crazy and sometimes exhausted, but also really energized as well. So it's all about mindset, to be fair. Like I could have chosen to feel very sorry for myself. I'd lost my whole life with my husband. I had a wonderful life with him.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about your life with your husband before your daughter was born and when your daughter was born and stuff.
Yeah, so we met when I was about 27. He's older than me. He was 7 years older than me, living in Sydney, and he was back for a political conference. So he was very into politics. And he was also a strategist as well in the marketing space. So we just hit it off instantly. We both had, that synergy of values and goals and things like that. And we just clicked. So he actually relocated to New Zealand to be with me, which was nice of him.
It's normally the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, I did try to go to Sydney actually, so I ended up in Australia eventually, but he wanted to come back for his political career as well, so it kind of all worked out.
Yeah.
And we weren't together. We did everything the wrong way back then. We actually had Ella first. She came along. She was a bit of a surprise, but a wonderful surprise. And then we got married after that. So we were married for 15 years before he died. And we had wonderful. He was very into traveling, and we were a tight little three-family unit, the Three Musketeers pretty much. So, yeah, we lived all over the place and met so many great people. He was very social. And so when someone like that leaves your life, it leaves a really big gap for two of you, for sure. So it's not something that you can fill either. And so the best thing for me was to actually start a whole new life. Yeah.
And that's when you moved to Australia, is that right?
I did, yeah. During COVID, actually, I woke up one day and thought, I'm living a life for two people and that one of them's not here.
You were still trying to continue on that life with that big
it's a really hard thing because, we had a huge house and I just finished renovating that house and I was running around, solo parenting with Ella and still trying to keep up the same existence. And it became very noticeable how hard that was to do. I was so tired. And COVID, I was working quite long hours from home as well. The only great thing about COVID for me was I did a massive big focus on exercise, and I got out and did a lot of that, lots of walking to process, emotions and grief and things like that. So yeah, we decided to move to Australia pretty much a year and a half afterwards. And we didn't know we were going to move here. We just chose Australia, and that was for lots of different reasons, many reasons around my daughter is passionate about acting. So
really?
yeah, she's very talented, and she's been training for years at it. So the schooling over here and more acting opportunities was a really big pull for us. For me personally, it was better weather.
It was what, sorry?
Better weather.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I would feel the same.
Yeah, and there's great, business opportunities over here too. So, it seemed to be a good move to make. So we flew over actually on the first green flight into Australia. So we were the first flight that never had to quarantine.
Oh, right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had no idea. We walked out to sort of like 50, 100 media people snapping and filming away.
Well, did your daughter love that though?
What's that?
Did your daughter love that though? Oh, look, I could be famous.
She did, but she was like, "Oh, I haven't done my hair." Or
yeah. And so so you moved over to Australia, and you've also had your own health journey as well. So, for those that listen to this podcast, they know that that's what we do. I help mums in their health journeys because I believe that mums are the first leaders. And, if mums aren't well, then it ricochets through the whole family, and we can change the next generation by just changing mums' habits and lifestyles. And you have your own health journey. So can you tell us a little bit about that too?
Sure, absolutely. So my husband was sick with cancer for almost 3 years. So that was pretty tough in terms of on me physically, because I was having to look after and take care of him, which I would, happily do anytime. My daughter, working full time, I was doing global restructures. I had a very full-on position at the time, contracting, so doing what I do now, but I was working also for the military at the time, doing some work there, which is a wonderful organisation. And I became very sort of just functioning, if that makes sense, surviving. I was in survival mode. Absolutely. I had no idea at the time at all. It's not until you look back afterwards, right? And I think it was about a couple of months after Mike had passed away, I started looking through old photos and things, and I was like, who is this woman? I do not recognize her. So I decided, I woke up one day and I thought, right, I'm going to do something about this. And I happened to speak to somebody who said, like, find something that you're passionate about and make it a habit. And so that's what I did. I started walking 5Ks a day to start with. And I think the first 6 weeks for me were so tough mentally. I went through all sorts of different, not mood swings as such, but emotional highs and lows with trying to force myself to do something that my body didn't want to do at all.
It is all about mindset there, isn't it? When you go, I'll just do this instead, or I don't have time for this. And it is really just like you have to ignore those thoughts and do it anyway.
You absolutely do have to push through it. And it's something that you have to do for yourself. I think that's how it worked for me. I couldn't rely on other people to motivate me. I had to really tap into why I was doing it. I also read the David Goggins book as well. And that actually really helped me. And I know he is, people say he is nuts. He went into the Navy SEALs and he's done all these crazy things. But I found that quite inspirational, especially for the second part of my health journey. So I lost a lot of weight and became very fit and I would often walk 5 to 10 Ks quite regularly. And I swam, and I went to the gym. I started going to the gym once I'd lost my initial weight as well. And yeah, I think some of his words actually kept me inspired, that we're stronger than what we think we are. So we have to learn to push beyond our boundaries, especially physical boundaries, as people seem to be really afraid to do that.
Really, you really are. I couldn't agree more. Yep.
And be organised. So to enable myself to change that part of my lifestyle, I had to change a lot of things in my environment. So I had to look at the things that I could have an impact to change, not the things that I couldn't. So, you know, I have a child, so I knew what those responsibilities were, work, all the fixed things, but everything else around that, like meal preparation, getting my clothes ready every Sunday for the week, outsourcing things. So instead of mowing the lawns and doing all that stuff, paying someone to come in and do that. Cleaning, I hired a cleaner. Absolutely.
Yep. Love it. Yeah.
That kind of freed me up to have the time to do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that's just fantastic. And you're writing a book now on your experiences. Is that right?
I am, yeah. I've probably got 3 books, hopefully, in the pipeline, one after the other. So writing,
3 books.
yeah, all different things as well. So through the journey of starting a new life, losing a life, really, and starting a whole new one, I used a lot of, I guess, the strategies that I've coached leaders on in organisations for years. I just flipped it and turned it around and started coaching myself, which is how I've created a whole new life, and managed to work through how to integrate grief into my daily existence and things like that too. So there's a lot of things that you can't ignore that you've been through. You've just got to learn how to navigate life with them there and still have a positive mindset and still be able to move forward. So the first book is really around my experience of becoming widowed, and the reason it came to me while Mike was sick, that there's not a lot of books around that can actually have the harsh reality of what it's really like. And I thought it would be helpful for people who go through it to not feel alone, because they do. It's such an individual experience. Not even their families can understand what it's like to lose a partner specifically, and how to parent and how to deal with other people projecting their grief and their feelings onto you while you're still trying to carry on, and then post that, how you rebuild. So
I want to stop just there, because I want you to talk a little bit about how did you parent, or how are you going to write in your book, or if you've already written it, what do you recommend in parenting when you're going through grief? She's going through grief, what would you say that helped you and helped your daughter?
So we didn't know what we were doing. It would be the first thing. And so it's trial and error. Every personality is different. The biggest thing I would recommend is getting support, professional support. Mm-hmm. And children will say they don't need it. They do need it. My daughter said no to counselling or psychology appointments, and now she goes all the time, because it's really helpful for her as a teenager. So children, I think, don't often experience the loss and the grief. They have grief initially. However, it's like 2 years, a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, and every Father's Day that comes up, or Mother's Day, depending on whether it's their mum or their dad that's passed away, or school events where people's parents, both parents are there, or and so they start to experience this very deep sense of loss, that their parent is not actually ever coming back.
So it's the delayed effect, isn't it? I can relate to that as a kid, when things happen to you and you just pretend that you're okay. You tell yourself you're okay and you squash it, and it's not till those sort of events that can trigger them, right?
Absolutely. And you're both going through the same thing from a different perspective. It's very hard for them to understand what losing a partner's like because they've not had a relationship,
Yeah, right.
beyond
And
the
then they're just
parents.
thinking, well, I lost my dad. Like, he was my dad. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
the other thing is, oh, well, you're going to date and you're going to find someone new, but I'm not
Yeah.
going to get a new dad, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
dating, you definitely need to get support when you're
Yeah.
dating because that's really hard on them. They really don't know how to process it emotionally. So it's really good having that outside perspective, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
And you mean counseling, psychologists, that kind of thing as a support?
Absolutely, like even school counselors are great to have. Like
Yeah.
we've teed that up a number of times now. With Ella's changed probably 3 schools in the last since we've been in Australia, even, which is crazy.
Okay.
So she's had a school counsellor at every school, and that's been great because often grief is triggered when they're under stress. So around exam time, or if
Yeah.
something doesn't quite go right at school and she gets feedback that's not positive, or where she feels like she's failing or letting somebody down,
It's the
having that.
underlying, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So I think of it as, the full glass of water. The glass
Yeah.
is full. Yeah, the glass is full a lot for children who carry that with them. Yeah, and then anniversaries as well. So, for example, like this week, we've got Mike's 3rd-year anniversary of passing, which is not something that you really want to celebrate, but you have to acknowledge
Mm.
because
Mm.
it really brings up a lot of memories from that time and last moments of being alive. And they're never really that great often. And so, I had to email her school and let them know that she might be a bit quiet or need some time out. So that's the other way you can support them is, stay close to school, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you? How do you support you through that
Well,
time?
so I have amazing friends and an amazing network of people, and I surround myself with only the best, really. So people do support me a lot. I'm lucky, and I'm actually open to talking about it. It's when you keep it inside and people don't know it's coming up or know how to deal with it. And I had a friend actually last week, she's lovely, and we've worked together as well. And she said, what are you going to do to look after yourself on Sunday? And is there anything I can do to help you? And that's really sweet and thoughtful. So,
Yeah. And
yeah,
that's why you have friends. Like that's what friends are about.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have nobody all of my friends are amazing. I would not have anyone in my group, especially after what I've been through,
Yeah.
that's not supportive, where you can't support each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an important message too, is that don't be afraid, like get new friends. If if they aren't
Yeah.
being actual friends and what friendship is about, get new friends. Like don't be afraid. I think people are afraid to let go of like even family members or whatever that haven't served you well. If they're, if your circle isn't right, change your circle.
Change your circle. Absolutely. Change your job. Change
Yes.
where you live. Change
Yes.
your car. Change how you dress. Change everything. If you're not happy with anything,
Yep.
change
You
it.
can change. I always love the saying, you're not a tree, you can move.
Exactly.
And that
So
goes
true.
for anything. You don't have to stay rooted and grounded, and that's not just like moving locations. That's, anything, circle of friends, jobs, anything that's happened, like weight loss, anything you can change. So would you say, going right back to when you were 15 years old and having that traumatic event happen to you, would you say that that has, like, did you get the right support and help then, or you didn't, so it shaped the way that you are right now, and helped you with, your other tragic journey of losing your husband?
I got really great support in many ways. So I was lucky I had the counsellor who I had a really good relationship with. It was a very lonely journey for me. My mum was going through the same stuff at the same time, and the rest of my
Mm.
family didn't understand it, which is very similar to actually when Mike passed away. It's the same situation. So it really did set me up um, for that. I think what it taught me most of all was mindset from a very young age. You choose your happiness. You choose how you show up to things. You choose how you represent yourself in the world. And how you do that is how people treat you. And also that anything is possible, not letting somebody else's mistakes in life affect you.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest shift in mindset ever. I could have become a victim.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because some people could just, wallow in that and
Mm.
allow the rest of life situations to dictate, oh, well, this happened to me, so that's why this is happening, or this is why I am the way I am.
Absolutely. So you can become a person who's mistrusting of other people. You can fear for your safety. You can become very insular in how you operate in the world, and become emotionally damaged. I guess I worked the opposite to not become all of those things, and to really be an example to people that just in case something happens to you, you can choose. You don't have to choose to let it take you over. And you can reinvent yourself too several times in your life as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, you can. Like if you knew me 20 years ago, you don't know me because, I've changed and grown and
Yeah. And,
yeah.
I guess as becoming a widow, what I really didn't want was people to look at me and go, oh gosh, is that going to happen to me if I lose my husband? In terms of if I had not got out of bed or carried on at work, or, being as, kicking butt in the world like I was before my husband passed away. I didn't want them to think that their life would fall apart, because it doesn't have to. In saying that, I have had solid time to process everything. I haven't just, ignored that things have happened to me. So, when I was 15, I had that whole year of counselling and talking through things and crying and being afraid to be on my own and things like that. It took a lot of courage to get through that.
Absolutely.
And then with Mike, I think I had a period. He passed away at the end of August. That Christmas, I normally have 4 to 6 weeks off for work. And I cried my little heart out every night for like 2 weeks straight. And I was watching all these movies. Don't watch romantic movies if you're not in a good headspace.
Yeah. Right, all those Valentine's days and what's the one that started it all? We were only just talking about them the other day. Like Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve, like all those ones with the same similar characters and they tell a story. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah, don't watch that.
Or
And then I got
maybe do watch that to get the emotions out. Like,
actually
yeah.
that did help. It did help, and there was a few funny things that happened as well. I remember saying to Mike, we had lots of conversations before he went, and I said, I'm going to watch Eat, Pray, Love, and P.S. I Love You. And P.S. I Love You is actually a story about a widow,
Yes.
a young
Yes.
widow, and I was and it came on the night of his funeral. Both movies back to back. So I've had a lot of
Yeah.
amazing things like that happen. Valentine's Day, the first Valentine's Day, my favorite shoe company sent me a gift card just for no reason. And I emailed them and they said, oh no, we just felt like giving one away and you were the person that came up. So I've had many things like that along the way.
Goosebumps.
Um,
I just legit got like,
Yeah, goosebumps, goosies. But back to the crying and the feeling. Yeah, you have to do that and process it to be able to move forward. But you
yes.
also need to know, like for me, I told myself, okay, this is enough now.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. You gotta cry, you gotta feel to heal, and then you've got to go, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been absolutely amazing to listen to, and I think you're so inspiring. Is there any like you've told some absolute gold today? Is there any other message that you would like to send out to the listeners that are listening to your story today?
I think it's really just about there's lots of ups and downs in life, and you can't control what happens to you. You can control where you go and what you do with it.
Mm. Mm.
And, never stop dreaming and take a risk, like take more risks. Life is so short,
Yeah.
And just really live your best life, whatever that is. and always be happy now, not happy when, you know.
Yes.
Be happy every day, be grateful. I think gratitude is the one thing that has got me through everything in my life, being grateful for everything I have, the people around me, and give back to people, pay it forward. If someone's done a great thing for you, do something for somebody else to help them and make, you know, their experience a little bit easier. Those are the main things, really. Yeah. Just
perfect. So I can't wait to read your books. I can't wait for your books to come out. Where can listeners find you if they want to learn more about you or hear from you? I know your book launch is going to be coming up soon. That's why your website is down at the moment. Is that right? It's currently offline. Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually. It is amandajaneloftus.com, but it will be up and running at some point soon. And I'm on all social media platforms, so Instagram and Facebook. I've written a lot of things on there. Again, I'm very sort of under the radar at the moment, but next year you'll see me pop up. I'll be hopefully everywhere. So thank you so
awesome. Well, they can already start following you before your book launch. So we'll include all of those links that you've shared with me today or shared with us today. But I really want to thank you for being so open and being so vulnerable and raw and honest, and that's what this platform is all about. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Mumma. You can find all the relevant links, including socials, in the description section of this podcast. If you want to find out more information about how I can help you build your best body after babies, then visit my website, www.thefitmummethod.com, for more info. Lastly, before you leave here today, if you've enjoyed listening, then please subscribe and share so you can help me to reach out to those mamas that also need to listen too.